Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Deutsch, and I'm a professional business plan writer. I've been developing business plans professionally for the past 20 years as of this September. And at the moment, I'm actually starting a video series just to discuss varying topics related to business planning, developing a business plan, as well as the development of very specific types of businesses. And this will be an ongoing video series that I intend to create in perpetuity. You may notice that I'm very new to this at the onset, so just bear with me. But today we'll be talking about developing a business plan and sort of the best steps that I've come across over the years. Again, having done this now for about 2 decades. If you're just starting your business plan, the thing that I can recommend, the best place to start is to always do the market research first. Whenever we have a client that comes in, the first thing I do once I get the necessary information to start the work is to always do the market research first. This is especially important if you're a local business, starting, let's say, a restaurant or a clothing store, a food truck, whatever, a medical or healthcare related business, whatever that may be. If you're going to be operating on sort of a local or more regional basis, always start with the market research. And that's important for a few reasons. The first being is that it'll give you an understanding whether or not the business is going to be feasible as a result of the size of the market that you're operating in, the population density, the median household income, the wealth, which can be very easily determined by housing prices. And you'll also be able to take a look at how many competitors there are within your local market in order to make a determination as to whether or not this is the best place to start this type of business. Not only that, it'll also give you a sense of the size of the market as well, especially on a local or regional basis. Most importantly, when examining the local market, make sure you do a very thorough competitive analysis. A lot of times when we get clients that come to us, they don't fully take that into account, especially if you're starting something like a restaurant. If you're dealing with a specific type of cuisine or you're styling the restaurant a certain way, certainly you want to make sure that you're going to have an appropriate differentiating factor that's going to set you apart from everywhere else. The world has become a very competitive place, for any type of business, whether you're a local business or an online business, which obviously has huge amounts of competition. You want to make sure that you're going to be able to effectively stand out from other competitors in the market. And I'm sorry if you see me looking down, I'm actually just checking my notes as I go through this as well. In regards to the industry research, this is certainly you want to have a overview of the industry that you're operating within. For instance, if you're opening up a restaurant, you want to take a look at the size of the industry, which I can tell you right now, as of this year, it's a little over $1 trillion of revenue. I think there are about 750,000 companies that have one or more locations in operation. And certainly taking a look at industry trends, again, speaking to a restaurant, something like incorporating delivery applications, having online ordering capabilities, all of those things you want to sort of, have a complete understanding of. But especially if you're dealing with a local-based business, you're going to want to, certainly have that in there, but you don't need to have huge volumes of pages regarding the industry research. Typically, when I do a business plan, it's usually 1 page to 2 pages at most, unless it's for something like an e-commerce business or a software as a service company, where it's going to be a very industry-driven and marketing-driven business plan, in which case you want to go into greater depth. But again, for anything that's more local or regional, keeping the industry analysis relatively short is perfectly fine. You also want to include an overview of the economy as it stands and how any potential changes in interest rate or changes in consumer spending, how any of that may impact your ability to generate revenue and remain profitable. And here we go. The second point, the length of the business plan. One of the common mistakes that I see, especially when someone comes to us with something they've already started to work on, is to make the business plan incredibly long. There's no definitive page count that you need to have, but I always tell people I never make a business plan longer than it has to be. And most importantly, a lot of people will put too much extraneous information into the plan. When it comes to the business plan, especially if you're looking to raise capital, the most important thing to provide is an understanding of how much money you need, what you're going to be doing with those funds, how the business is going to be able to use that capital and when the business will turn profitable. That's the most important thing, especially if you're seeking funding from a whether it's a private funding source like an investor or from a bank via a commercial business loan or SBA loan. Those are going to be the primary things you're going to want to focus on when you're developing your business plan. I've seen so many instances people will put in, huge volumes related to employee management issues. How again, just speaking to like a sort of the generic, you're gonna say generic, but just sort of a restaurant business plan, putting in all their procedures and protocols for cleanliness of the kitchen. That's perfect to have, and you're absolutely going to need that for something like an employee handbook or an operational plan. But that should stay within the confines of sort of a secondary document, again, an employee handbook, an operational plan, and it does not need to go directly in the business plan, primarily because no one's going to want to read that. If you're giving the business plan to an SBA or conventional business loan lending institution, or if you're working with a private investor, it's kind of assumed that you're already going to have knowledge of that and how to attend to those matters. Certainly within the plan, it's fully appropriate to say, hey, if you want to take as attached to, for more information regarding our day-to-day operations or, employee management, you can always have that as an addendum or as something else you can share. But definitely that's something that should not go into the plan. And the reason being as well is that these days, people have incredibly short attention spans. Everyone is on their phone and their computer, and sometimes you have the phone next to the computer. And so when someone's reading the business plan, they're going to want to go through it and make sure that all of the relevant information is there, and then it follows a nice flow. So again, they understand exactly what you're looking to do, how much it's going to cost, how those funds are going to be used, and when you're going to reach profitability. That will keep the business plan within an appropriate length without going into far more extraneous detail. Certain things do require a little bit greater degree of granularity. When I work with businesses like software as a service companies, or e-commerce related businesses, then there is some greater detail, especially as it relates to marketing and how certain aspects will be handled, mainly because it demands that type of information is known. But again, always use your best judgment in terms of what's important and what's not, and even if it's something ancillary or operationally related, can this go in a separate operational plan document and not be included in sort of the standard business plan? Generally speaking, most of the business plans that I develop typically run between 40 to 42 pages. If there's a substantial amount of complexity, it may run as high as 50, but typically I don't like going more than 50 pages, and that's for a very specific purpose. Again, those are few and far between. Let me take a look at my notes again. Marketing. Of all the sections of the business plan, I would say that the market analysis section, especially as it relates to your local or regional market, if you're that type of business, and then of equal importance is your marketing section. In terms of length, this should probably be the longest section of the business plan. You're going to want to showcase exactly how you're going to inform people, the general public, or if you're a B2B business, potential partners, how you're going to attract their attention. Especially, these days, everyone finds businesses online. You're going to need to discuss ways such as search engine optimization, pay-per-click marketing, using social media, targeted social media ads, video marketing. All of those things are going to be you need to very clearly define, and also establish a budget for each of those types of marketing channels. Again, if you're a local business, you're also going to want to discuss things like distribution of flyers, printed advertisements, support of local charities. All those types of activities need to be very clearly defined. I would say that in a standard, 40 to 42 page business plan, a good 4 to 5 pages, maybe you should say 3 to 5 pages, should really focus on exactly how you're going to tell people that you're open for business, and also applying the appropriate marketing messages so they understand exactly what you're doing, how much things are going to cost. I have found that being upfront with people in regards to things like pricing and the exact service that's provided, that's what most people want to know. Certainly, if you're a specialized business dealing, let's say if you're a new apparel company or a consumables-based business or software as a service, certainly you're going to want to delve a little bit deeper into discussing things like your marketing messages, your value proposition, your brand positioning, especially if you're going to be a mid or higher end brand. and how you're going to effectively differentiate yourself from everyone else. And again, that's sort of, I always feel that the market research and the marketing plan should sort of work in tandem with each other regarding differentiating factors, competitive advantages, and how you're going to set yourself apart. Again, especially if you're an online business, because certain industries have become commoditized, and you're going to need to very thoroughly discuss ways that you're going to be able to showcase your product effectively while getting the highest return on your advertising expenditures. If you are an online business, just touching on this briefly, and we'll discuss this, much more in depth in other video, using social media influencers, especially if they have a legitimate following of 10,000 to 100,000 people, how you'll be able to drive traffic that way, and examining all those metrics, which we'll get into later. This is much more just focused on the business planning. Then let me just take a look at the notes again. The financial model. This is where most people get tripped up. The financial model, beyond the marketing plan, the market analysis, and it sort of culminates with the financial model. Okay, we're spending X amount on our advertising campaigns. We've determined that this is a viable business based on the size of the market. There's enough people that are going to want to buy this product or use our service. The competition is appropriate so that we're going to be able to effectively compete. But now, how do we determine things like revenues and expenses, and when are we going to achieve profitability? This is where a lot of people, this is where a lot of the terminology comes in, things like pro forma financial statements and contribution margins and EBITDA and depreciation. And if you don't have a background in whether it's accounting or business administration or finance, these things can be confusing off the bat. One of the things I can suggest is, rather than first developing a full-scale formal business financial model, do just a general one, almost on like a piece of paper. Here's how much our product or service costs. I expect to sell or render the service X times a week, or sell X units per week. Here's how much it costs me to do it. Here are my expenses, and here's what I anticipate as my profit. That's always the best starting point, because a lot of what you're going to do as you develop a sort of the formal financial model, especially if you're looking for investment capital, is sort of take that information and then input it into whether it's an Excel spreadsheet or any type of program that you're using, into that, again, that formal 3 to 5 year financial statement for your business plan. In regards to that, I always do a 5-year financial plan as a standard. 3 to 5 years is completely appropriate. I always view the last 2 years as just sort of an extenuation of the initial 3 years, are showing, in most cases, in some cases, there are reasons why it absolutely should be 5, especially if there's going to be a major development in year 4 or a major development in year 5, just to make sure that is known. But usually, the first 3 years are the most important. And that's what pretty much every financial institution or private investor is going to look at. All right, how are things going in the first 3 years? Again, as a standard, I do 5 just for just to have that comprehensive nature. Typically speaking, you do not need to go more than 5 years. I've had some people over the years ask for, we'd like to see a 10-year financial model. I've even had people say on a 25-year financial model, and that's just not feasible at all in terms of appropriate projections. I mean, you could apply, a standard inflation rate and just apply it and move it forward. But projecting things out anything further than 5 years is next to impossible. The only time it's appropriate is if you're, let's say you're involved in oil and gas and you're dealing with, a parcel of land that, has X amount of reserves in it. We've done that type of work in the past where it is more appropriate to have, a 10-year model. Same deal with, like, let's say a solar farm where you're purchasing a huge amount of capital assets up front, and you want to see, how the revenues are going to progress over a 10-year period to show a return on that investment. Outside of that, if you're, a restaurant, a retail business, a healthcare related business, even for online businesses, 5 years is more than sufficient. And I know of no financial institution or any private investment group that has ever really wanted to see anything more than 5 years, except under those very unusual, originally unusual, but, very specific circumstances where it's warranted. Just in terms of, the cosmetics of the plan, always try to write the business plan in the third party, third person voice. It gives you a little bit more options in terms of how you can structure sentences. versus saying I and we over and over again, which can get very repetitive. I am going to do this, or we are going to do that. Try to use the name of the business, where you can refer to yourself as management or the owner. It gives you more options to vary sentences. It makes it a little bit easier to read, versus, again, just hearing I and we over and over again. In certain instances, and this is incredibly rare, I have seen the requirement that is written in the first person, but having done this for 20 years and having written about 4,800 business plans, that's happened like 5 times. So again, it just creates that degree of a little more formality. In regards to cosmetics of the plan, I'm always a huge fan. People like to see things that are, aesthetically pleasing. Having a nice front cover page with a logo if you've already had it done. Certainly using full color charts and graphs. Again, if you're struggling with any of this, and I know, part of this video series is me promoting my business to a certain extent. So, if you do need help with this, certainly click on the link below. You can see samples of the work that we have for both business plans and pitch decks. But you can get a sense of, just keeping things aesthetically pleasing, which also keeps the interest of the person that's reading it. Again, people have, having done this now for 20 years, I've noticed a huge shift in people's attention spans in regards to just reviewing anything. So, having something that's aesthetically pleasing will help people keep moving through the plan so they get a very good sense of what you're doing. Finally, layout. So there's no definitive format that's required in terms of developing a business plan. The format that I follow typically is a 9-chapter, 5 appendice format. And I'll just rattle off, the way I structure most of the plans: the executive summary, use of funds, operations, overview of your organization, which mainly focuses on your corporate structure, mission statement, and vision statement. Chapter 5 is typically the market research. Chapter 6 is your competitive advantages and sustainability. Chapter 7 is the marketing plan. Chapter 8 is the personnel plan. Chapter 9 is the financial model. And then there's some appendices such as a SWOT analysis discussing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, followed by the risk analysis, which is also very important to a plan, but we'll discuss that in another video. That's the layout I use. I just sort of like that progression, but there's nothing that says you can't use a standard 7-chapter layout, which if you go online or Google anything, a lot of times you'll see a 7-chapter layout. That's perfectly fine as well. And, it just should cover those main things. Always start with the executive summary in terms of your plan. And in terms of writing the executive summary, always do it last. The executive summary should be 2 or 3 pages at most and should serve as sort of a roadmap for the rest of the plan. So when I develop a plan, I'll mention the operations section, please see chapter 3 for more information. Or when it comes to discussing the financing in the executive summary, please see chapter 2 for more information. So it gives the reader an understanding of exactly where they can go, at how they're going to progress through the document. I would say that's pretty much, the easiest way to do it is to follow some sort of logical progression. One other thing I forgot to mention, the market research, especially as it relates to the industry analysis. And I've seen this happen a few times. It's not a book report. Some people, especially people who are new to entrepreneurship or haven't started a business before or haven't tried to secure capital, again, I know we touched on this in the beginning, somewhat feel like the longer the better. It shows I've done my homework. It shows I've put this together. But I've seen certain instances where you're discussing topics and things that are completely unrelated. So again, just want to circle back to that real quick. Keep those things, again, as much as you need, but not anymore. That's always going to be the winning strategy for you. In closing, that's pretty much just an overview of the way that I go out writing business plans, and just hopefully some helpful tips for you as you're working on it as well. I'm going to do a few other videos discussing sort of informal business planning, where if you're a self-finance business and you're sort of pen and paper, just figuring things out, we'll discuss that as well. Again, just sort of promoting what I do. I've been writing business plans professionally for the last 20 years. The name of my company is Deutsch and Thomas. We've done, I think I mentioned this, about 4,800 business plans, confirmed capital raises among people that have gotten back to us and have indicated that they've raised the funds they were seeking. As of last month is about $995 million. So certainly if you need any help with your business plan, certainly click on the link below. Feel free to contact us at any time. You can speak to me directly, and we can see if this is something that you would need to have done. And certainly thank you for your time and taking a look. And certainly, again, I'll be creating some more of these videos. hopefully as I progress through this, the quality of the work will get a bit better. But thank you again for taking a look, and take care. Bye. Hi, it's me again. Thanks for watching the preceding video. This is just a reminder that if you would like the free financial model that was discussed in the description, please click on the link below. You'll be taken directly to the download page. You don't need to put in your name or email, anything like that. Simply click the link and download it. Right after this little piece right here, there's going to be a short video that's just going to be a quick tutorial on how to use it. It's a general profit and loss statement that has a loan amortization table. That way, if you're doing any projections on your own, you can just get a quick sense of how a financial model will look over a 3-year period, and it's a dashboard driven financial model. So as you make changes, you'll see in real time how your profit and loss changes, and that's it. Thanks again. If you would like to download it, just click on the link. You'll be taken right to the downloads page. Take care. Hello, and thank you very much for taking a look at the dashboard financial model that was discussed earlier in this video. Very quickly, I'm just going to walk you through it. It's a very straightforward financial model. Any of these tables you can edit specific for your needs. So for instance, if you're a restaurant, you could type in food sales and beverage sales. And as you'll notice here, this will automatically update for you. You can adjust the cost of goods service. So let's say your food sales will be 30%, beverage sales will be 25%. And as you can see, everything is starting to automatically update. And I'll just put that back to service 1 and service 2, and I'll put it right back to the way it was. And as you can see, the financial model automatically updated. Same deal with any of these revenue categories. You can adjust this. So let's say for your first service for year 1 will be 300,000, and then 325, and then 350,000. As you can see, the financial model automatically updated, and you can adjust any aspect of this. Let's say you need a $200,000 loan instead of a $150,000 loan. The monthly loan payment and interest adjusted. Again, this gives you just a real-time overview of any changes you're making. Once you put in these inputs, out comes your profit and loss statement. That's here. It gives you all the inputs you put in will be shown here. This is just a smaller overview statement, profit and loss statement. And then there's the common size income statement. This is a function of dividing into revenue. So for instance, the $125,000 of payroll for year 1 divided into the revenue of 635. It just gives you a sense of where every dollar is going. And then there's the loan amortization table. There's nothing that needs to be edited here. The dashboard controls all of that. Same deal with the profit and loss statement. My apologies for not mentioning that. Nothing needs to be adjusted here. Everything in this model is just controlled on these tables. And that's essentially how it works. Again, just click on the download button. You don't need to put in your name, your email, anything like that. Just download it and enjoy it. And if you do need help with any financial modeling or business planning in the future, please feel free to reach us at any time. Thank you again for taking a look. Take care. Hi, it's me again. Thanks for watching the preceding video. This is just a reminder that if you would... Hello, and thank you very much for taking a look at the dashboard financial model that was discussed earlier in this video. Very quickly, I'm just going to walk you through it. It's a very straightforward financial model. Any of these tables you can edit specific for your needs. So for instance, if you're a restaurant, you could type in food sales and beverage sales. And as you'll notice here, this will automatically update for you. You can adjust the cost of goods service. So let's say your food sales will be 30%, beverage sales will be 25%. And as you can see, everything is starting to automatically update. And I'll just put that back to service 1 and service 2, and I'll put it right back to the way it was. And as you can see, the financial model automatically updated. Same deal with any of these revenue categories. You can adjust this. So let's say for your first service for year 1 will be 300,000, and then 325, and then 350,000. As you can see, the financial model automatically updated, and you can adjust